Anyway, it's Roy Carter from X2 Media, and apologies for not posting that many videos the past little bit. I've been preoccupied with a lot of things. I've been kind of in a nerdy regards of things. I've been spending kind of like an admin for a RuneScape clan, and also been doing a few other things too, and my back's just been kind of messed up, so it's been kind of stopping me from doing things. In fact, right now, I don't know if it's just the weather change or whatnot, but anyways, aside from that, those trivial details, what I'm doing this video about right now is practically about what Trudeau had, or as I call him, turd water in French, Trudeau, eau de turd, has came up with I guess in the budget on page 252, a financial recapitalization scheme, which pretty much is a bail-in, which allows corporations that lose money, banks especially, let's say if TD or Bank of Montreal loses a lot of money, or they're not posting their usual billion-dollar profits, well, they can go into your bank account, take your money out, and then put in worthless stocks to try to make it an equal trade. But the thing is, when a bank goes completely belly up, or if we have another 2008 financial crisis, and a lot of Canadians don't understand, and I've also put it in one of my videos, I think on Canada too, and also a video beforehand. You're more than welcome to check it out. I will put links to to a Rebel. I know Rebel Media. I know they're pretty conservative or libertarian, depending on which way you look at it. But Ezra Levant, man, he really has been doing his homework. And as much as I don't agree with him on Rob Ford, I thought the guy was a complete embarrassment. And I mean, I wouldn't wish cancer on my worst enemy, but Rob Ford was a crack-smoking asshole who did bully a lot of people with his brother Doug. And, I mean, you don't get to the head of city councilor and also to city hall just on random coincidence. You have people supporting you, and you have a lot of stuff that you do along that road to get to where you are. And, I mean, Anthony Smith died, and I know they couldn't... they tried to find a connection between, I guess, the one gentleman who was charged with his death and stuff like that, see if it was hired at all with Rob Ford, but that wasn't, there wasn't anything that was able to, solid proof that would tie them together. But, I mean, I just think that a politician should, not be a fucking joke to the rest of the world. Anyways, like Rob Ford was. I mean, you got a crack-smoking mayors talking about eating pussy and doing all kinds of stuff like that. And you know what? In a funny sense of way, I have to give it to him that way. But, all right, let's get back to Trudeau, because this is what's screwing us over, is that he's practically implemented, Cyprus-style bail-ins. And that's very concerned for anyone who has a bank account, for anyone who lives in Canada. A lot of Canadians are completely unaware of the fact that Harper, back in 2008, actually did bail out the Canadian banks through the Canadian Housings and Mortgages Corporation. He gave them $75 billion, which in turn was divvied out evenly amongst the private chartered banks here in Canada. And they made about $1 billion to $2 billion each profit that year. So it's not like they were really hurting and that they were, at the point where they're, oh no, we're going to, have to sell things. But we've got a huge asset bubble here in Canada. And they talk about it on the CBC, but they don't really talk about it the way that it should be talked about. I mean, it should be a red flag in most of the mainstream media. And the fact that, Vancouver properties are selling for like $1 million for like, crappy old houses that, the roof's caving in, it's got all these like different problems with it and stuff, and the water doesn't work properly and everything, it needs like a major overhaul. Just goes to show you how inflated the bubble still became. They didn't let the bubble pop, and you know what, Harper, temporarily I could see why he did that move, but it just kicked the can down the road. So we have an asset bubble pop here in Canada, which is likely. I mean, we've got our resource sector in our economy right now is just a freaking joke, and it's gotten to the point where people that are selling right now are not making money, are losing in a lot of regards, and it's crazy that we're implementing Cyprus-style bail-ins. And what pisses me off is, you see, as an informed Canadian, someone who's done a lot of research into, I mean, yeah, we got the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and stuff like that. Great, I understand that's definitely been a great thing to have. And, but under Trudeau Sr., he also amended the Bank Act of Canada in 1974 to give away the printing power of our money. So every single dollar that we take to buy to pay for something gets added with a compounded interest on top of it. So that means that every dollar created has debt already attached to it. So no matter how much money you try to pay off of what you owe, it's going to keep compounding. And the compounded interest aspect of it is ridiculous because beforehand we used to pay for the Trans-Canada Highway. We paid for so many different, pretty much for the entire infrastructure of the Atlantic transportation line through the St. Lawrence and stuff. And that was paid for by the Bank of Canada, but at interest-free, without having to pay with the compounded debt aspect of things. We paid it off without any problems. But as soon as we went off, started going away from the gold standard, just like Nixon did, and also amending the Bank of Canada so that we gave the printing power of our money over to the central banking cartels, we have pretty much screwed ourselves over. We cannot afford socialism at this rate because we have a system that is meant to go into a spiral system of debt. No matter how much money we pay off, we might be able to pay off the debt a little bit. And now we've got Trudeau that's spending, $100 billion, and he says he's going to have everything balanced budget in 5 years. I really doubt that. I mean, I just cannot believe how Canadians fell for the whole legalization of weed now. And now he's going back on it, saying, oh no, we can't legalize weed because it might interfere with some international treaties. You see how fucking sly these snake oil salesmen are? And what pisses me off is that Canadians fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, Trudeau's dad, like I said, with the implementation of, giving the power of our banking over to central private chartered entities that don't really give a shit about Canadians at all when you get down to the brass task of it. It's gotten to the point now where we're implementing Cyprus-style bail-ins. So, let's say if TD doesn't make their record, their usual $1 billion profit or a couple $1 billion profit, then they can actually go into your bank account and steal your fucking money. And so what if they replace it with shares in their company? How are you going to go pay your rent or pay bills or feed your kid when you have skyrocketing hydro bills? Here in Canada we're getting completely screwed over. And we have been taken advantage of for so long that every average Canadian just seems to deal with it. Seems to just be part of the Canadian national. We're so polite. We're supposed to take it while we're getting raped in the ass by fucking foreign multinational corporations, or the fact that the energy prices were going down for quite some time. I think they're starting to go up now because Saudi Arabia and a few other countries are starting to boost up their production a little bit. But still, it's getting to the point where the money that could have been saved, because let's look at the food cost. A lot of that food has to get transported. So when we had cheaper gas, you would think that the savings would be passed on to the average Canadian. But no. In fact, food prices go up. So Wall Street is taking that difference between the low transportation cost and the heightened inflated cost of food and are pretty much putting that in their pocket. That's helping fund the wealth inequality gap. And that's ridiculous. And I really think that any Canadian that listens to this right now should be wary of the fact that, hey, this is a great advertisement to Bitcoin and to other cryptocurrencies because your money's not safe anymore. And I knew it was going to happen. I freaking knew it was going to happen because Trudeau, Sr. and Jr. have been used by the globalists to push their agendas. Now you have Trudeau that's saying, oh, I'm a feminist and whatnot. I could imagine the next little bit we're probably going to have laws against free speech for anybody that disagrees with a feminist. Hell, they tried to take Gregory Allen Elliott to court over disagreeing with feminists on Twitter, which is ridiculous. They've got people pouring piss over Lauren Southern's head. They're talking about putting a female on top of the with $100 bill. And you know what? I'm all for putting Laura Secord on there or something like that. But they'll probably put Margaret Sanger or something in there, knowing them. Someone who was traditionally known for saying some pretty freaking racist things towards blacks and other, having her picture at the KKK rallies and just total eugenicists and stuff. And that is pretty much who the globalists love. That was one of their in their operation. So I am just really kind of hoping to see that, there's a backlash to this, because I'm going to be railing against this for years now. As soon as I read that, and as soon as I actually looked it up and saw in the budget that they're talking about their whole bail-in scheme, I was like, no, enough's enough. No, I'm putting my foot down right now and telling every single person that voted for Trudeau that they shouldn't have done it in the first place. I didn't vote for him. I mean, I made the mistake of voting for Mulcair. And I'll be honest with you, every single party here in Canada is controlled. You got the Conservatives that are all about the free trade, all about selling off public assets for privatization and for quick money gains. They tried to, like, all the shares that they sold off of GM and stuff like that when, shouldn't even bailed those idiots out in the first place. I mean, if you're having a horrible, we're supposed to live in a capitalistic free market society, but we don't. We don't have capitalism. We have crony capitalism. And, think about the free market. It's easy to be manipulated. When you put in central banks, you put in consolidation of people that don't have to pay taxes, that are completely exempt from the system. And, everybody else has to play by the regular rules, yet there's a small group of financial elite that don't. And that's what's wrong with the world. It's not ISIS, it's not Russia, it's the fact that we're being controlled by different entities that don't even live in our own country. And that's what it's coming down to, folks. These free trade agreements that destroy jobs and take them over to China and other countries that have horrible labor conditions, horrible health conditions, have a complete oppressive government where any dissent is completely and harshly punished, that, like, harvest freaking Falun Gun practitioners' organs and stuff, and implement, like, sesame credit social control schemes so that anybody that, is afraid to even associate with somebody that might have a negative or a low sesame credit score. It is all about ostracizing people in that country, and that is disgusting. And I'm seeing so much of this cultural Marxism, oppressive kind of style that's going on here in Canada. Yeah, and not just in Canada, also in North America too. And you know what? I wish we had someone like Trump who here in Canada, but we don't. In fact, I mean, you look at Trudeau. He came on this whole change and all this, pretty much like the same guy who was running Obama's campaign did the whole, we need to get rid of Harper and he's such a bad guy and stuff. And I hated Harper. Harper was a complete idiot. I mean, he knew how to temporarily fix things, but, the Conservatives are one of the reasons, like, they've tied the prices of our dollar so heavily into our commodities and energy market that it is just ridiculous, especially since, tar sands is about, 2% of our economy, less than 5% if you take the oil sector in general, and a lot of that stuff, we're just taking it out, we're not even processing it, we're just shipping it, shipping dirty crude over to, other places for them to refine it, and, it takes away jobs and stuff like that, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I am about, using our energy and stuff like that, but we have to be smart about it. We have to be environmentally sound about it, but we have to do it in a way where we don't just try to fix things through taxation. Whatever happened to throwing a CEO's ass in jail for fucking polluting a major area of something, holding them accountable, not letting them declare bankruptcy, declare any, we're a corporation, so we want all the rights of a person, but we don't want any of the responsibility associated to actually, being an individual whatsoever, so that when we do screw up, we can just take our money, maybe pay a little bit of a penance fee, and then, start another company, do the exact same thing somewhere else. And that's what the system that we have now. And I don't believe that these, carbon offset schemes are going to help Canada in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to allow people to sell offsets, even though they're considered complete junk bonds on the global market. So, I mean, it is ridiculous. It really is. Just like people that are that believe that natural gas is the way to go, because the investment in natural gas isn't even worth it. It's very rare that you'll find an actual natural gas well that'll actually, make you a profit with the amount of water and the amount of chemicals and the amount of BTUs that you have to put into the actual refining process. In fact, you're getting about 50 cents on the dollar for what you're actually getting out of a successful large shale gas mining operation, which is just a joke, really. It's not even worth it, especially with cheap oil. And even if oil goes up, it just goes to show you how heavily manipulated the commodities market is. Same thing with gold and silver. For every ounce of silver, they say, 200, 300 times the amount is actually betted on through paper bonds. Same thing with gold. It's sad. It's a total corruption of the actual market. And, you guys got to be aware, Canadians got to be aware of this stuff because, they try to hide things in the budget. And what gets me is that you will not see this in the mainstream media. And this is a big thing, signing on to Cyprus, it's all part of a UN, European Union agenda. You see, they want us weak. They want us into the North American Union. They say, if you ask any mainstream economist, they will tell you that a central banking system is vital in controlling, to make sure that you don't have inflation and to, properly value the amount of resources that a country has based on GDP and other different socioeconomic factors. But what gets me is the fact that we're openly going towards this just complete authoritarian takeover. We're talking about making centralized consolidation of pretty much managed trade. So we have these entities that exist offshore that don't care about Canadian interests, that can sue us if let's say if a private hospital happens to set up shop and a public hospital is right next to it, and that public hospital may be taking away potential business. They don't even have to prove it in courts, and they can sue us. We've already been sued, here in Canada, over a dozen times through NAFTA laws, through farmers, because we didn't want to put a Zyprexa and some other stuff. And I think I've covered that before in an older video, but I'm just going to show you, if you really look into just the absurdity of NAFTA, how we've been sued for trying to uphold Canadian standards. Also, when they're trying to push with the TPP, they're trying to put American milk into Canada. Even if they say it was only 10%, and I still haven't even got a clear word back from dairy farmers or stuff like that to find out exactly how much is, or if it is going to be put into the Canadian market. Complete, silence on it. You don't hear about it in the mainstream media. No, we have to hear about, somebody in Manitoba who gets, suspended for wearing a hat that, somebody deemed as Manitoba warrior or some stupid thing like that. Or, how Trudeau was such a feminist and how he's getting all these awards and shit. This is a total fucking joke. And I'm sorry for my language. I try not to swear and stuff, but I'm just at the point where it's just ridiculous. It is open and apparent, this, just push for global governments. And, you look at Cyprus. You just look how people got duped, in Ireland and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And the fact that we're pushing a bail-in, and I knew Trudeau was going to do something like that, whether it was signing us on to a carbon tax or, we've already got that here in Ontario. And, a lot of Canadians don't even know that $37 billion is overcharged to Ontarians, just people in one province. We had the $1.1 billion gas plant scandal that made headlines, but yet we have, over $37 billion that's been overcharged to people of Ontario for hydro costs. My sister keeps my newborn niece in a room, and she doesn't heat any other parts of the place except for her room, and maybe keeps Pengu on for her. They don't use a lot of hydro, and yet she's getting $300, almost $400 bills for a tiny ass apartment. And this is all part of the UN Agenda 2030 Sustainable Living. It's all about taking away, different abundant sources that, they may be polluting. I'll give you that. But, we haven't exactly put a viable alternative. We haven't got to the point where we put in all this new energy or this, energy to replace the amount of energy that we're losing by, eliminating these coal plants and stuff like that. And I do think that in a way we do need that kind of energy, because we haven't hit to the age where we're, running everything off of a Tesla style or geothermal or tidal energy. We haven't got to the point where we've replaced that demand. And, it's gotten to the point where where people here in Ontario and around Canada are finding it hard just to pay rent and just to pay hydro costs, let alone groceries and the fact that food prices are skyrocketing. It's ridiculous how we're getting fleeced, and I am so sick of it. And most people are so fucking asleep to the fact that we're getting screwed over by these North American union-wanting fucking globalist goblins. We have Bilderberg coming, having a meeting in the next month, I believe, and most people don't even know what it is. I mean, there are a few people, if you go around, that are kind of awake to it, but when you actually get into a conversation with people, you have no idea how many times they get called a conspiracy theorist, or you're not sourcing your media from your sources from mainstream media, and people don't realize just how controlled the mainstream media is. And yes, there's plenty of alternative media sites out there that obviously are getting their sources from questionable different opinions in different areas there, and may not be entirely credible. But how credible is the mainstream media when they get you so focused on what's going on with a local hockey team that you don't actually pay any attention, or they don't bring attention, the fact of just how entirely screwed we're becoming? And I'm also against the whole refugee thing. At first, I was like, hey, 30,000 people. I looked up the amount of people who claim refugee status, and it's usually about 40,000 on average here in Canada. We get about 250,000 Canadians that die from different, just from either natural causes or whatnot like that. Obviously, that's going to be heightened with the, die-off of the baby boomers and stuff like that. So... And we get about, the same amount of people that come in through legal immigration and stuff, too. But we're taking over, at first it was 30,000, then it became 50,000, and I was all on board because originally I was against Harper bombing Libya and Syria to begin with. And I knew that was going to cause destabilization, just like it did in Iraq. And, here we go. We've came to a point where that's... That is a scary reality, what's going on right now. And we're bringing in, unvetted, a lot of these people, they have fake passports. And a lot of these people are military-age men. And I'm all for bringing over people that are properly vetted. But Ezra Levant, even though I'm not... there's a lot of things about the rebel that I disagree with. There's a lot of things about different... news outlets out there that I see, especially nowadays. And this is what gets me about mainstream media, is that they try to put this whole fair and balance, just like Fox News or just like CBC that's gone completely leftist now, that is all about, we're not promoting a bias or an agenda. We're professional because we try to show every side, kind of thing, And that used to be what had the media as kind of like, and the fact that it's on cable TV. Most people get home, they flip on the TV and they see something on there, and they, there's many different news agencies, and they find one that they like and they stay with it. But for me, I have to look at different places and see the validity of what they have to say. And Ezra Levant from the Rebel.media has really put out some good stuff, and especially when it comes to concerning of the refugees. And the fact that the refugees that we originally brought over last year were actually already living comfortably in apartments in Turkey. And I have real problems with the fact that the UN says that they have already vetted these refugees, because the UN has allowed Turkey, and is even thinking about bringing the Ukraine into NATO. And hey, I am no cheerleader for Russia. There's a lot of things about Russia that I dislike completely. And, I like the fact that we live in Canada, and I want to, I prefer Canada over Russia any day. But, I also have to see where credit is due. And the Americans would have you think, and the mainstream media would have you think, that it was them and their bombing campaigns in the last year, even though they said many different times that, ISIS was still rising and still expanding, even though they tried everything they can, and, that they were doing everything they can by bombing ISIS targets and not Syrian infrastructure, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And sure enough, Russia comes in. Okay, so you guys are fighting ISIS? Well, we're going to fight ISIS too. And not only did they get official recognition from Assad, who was, as much as you may or may not like him, is actually the leader of Syria and had the actual permission for Russia to go in there. And then Turkey, when they shot down the Russian plane, actually expanded their borders beforehand, and Turkey has also been, and Russia, they have shown solid footage of lines of tankers going into Syria for as far as the eye can see. And the U.S. has been busted through the Associated Press and a few other articles that have said that they've been going over, there's even an investigation in the Pentagon at the outrageous propaganda that was boasted to say that, oh yeah, we're making huge strides against ISIS, but for some reason they're still expanding. Yet within a few fucking months, Russia managed to completely decimate ISIS, and also to the point where now Turkey is flipping out and trying to fight with the Kurds. And oh my god, Erdogan needs to resign because that terrorist-loving motherfucker should be tried for treason. And he is the main reason. And I have a lot of skepticism at the bombings that are going on in Turkey. I think a lot of it has to do with false flag, because Turkey, if you look historically, has had a long record of false flag operations. In fact, when he was talking about censoring Twitter, he actually, and the mainstream media was all about, oh, he's censoring Twitter. Nothing about the fact that in the calls that was released, he said about possibly provoking a false flag operation to get people on his side. And that's what comes down to it. I mean, we have Saudi Arabia on the UN Human Rights Council. When has the UN helped anyone? All this money in charity. Trudeau, he gets in. He puts what? Almost $3 billion to a UN Children's Fund, and also a bunch of, now he's bringing 300,000 refugees in. So I think even the Fraser Institute, which I know they're a conservative think tank, and you have to take stuff with a grain of salt, but I mean, the way they're housing them in hotels, the way that they're giving them free healthcare and stuff like that, I've been on a waiting list for 5 years. My back is screwed. I've been trying to do everything I can to ease the freaking crippling freaking pain that I fucking suffer on a regular basis. There are days when the weather changes and I can barely get out of bed because I am hurting so much. And I have waited almost 5 freaking years for a family doctor because I made the mistake of going out west and traveling. That is ridiculous. And they're bringing all these people in and giving them all these doctors are volunteering, so they're taking away from Canadians. As much as you want to say, oh, well, they're not terrorists and stuff like that. Okay, they're not terrorists. I understand, there might be a small percentage of them, though, that does have and we're seeing that in Europe. I mean, was it Molenbeek or whatnot? The mastermind of the Paris attacks was being harbored by the Islamic community in that area for 4 fucking months. We also have the problems here in Canada where we're starting to find terrorist cells. There's one in Montreal. There's people that are being recruited from Canada going over to fight, that was fighting for ISIS and stuff. Hopefully they're all dead by Russians bombing the shit out of them because they fucking deserve it. I'm sorry. And, we've got a government that's openly supporting neo-Nazis in Kiev. That's what I hate about the UN. If they were all about doing what they say they were going to do and taking the money that they get to actually solve problems and not take sides and try to, work things out, then that would be another thing. But then I have people in my old riding of the NDP who I used to support that are saying, oh no, the UN has properly vetted them. When has the UN properly done anything the last little bit? They have done nothing but, perpetuate the fact that we are at an East versus West Cold War mentality when we're funding shadow proxy armies in Syria up until the ceasefire, and even now there's Turkey fighting the Kurds, and the Kurds are kind of allied with us, which is interesting because we're also allied with Turkey. So it's like you can't win, in any situation. And even if you believe in the mainstream narrative of things, I mean, the U.S. funded Al-Qaeda elements in Libya. That's admitted. That's openly admitted. One of the leaders of the Free Syrian Army was also part of Al-Nusra, which is affiliated Al-Qaeda. That's been out in the mainstream Associated Press too. And, despite the U.S. and the mainstream narrative, there's so much crap that is not being told to people. And that's what gets me angry. And that's what should get you angry. A lot of the people that watch the videos that I make, hey, I'm just an average guy who's trying to do the best he can to shed some light on the information. But you will hear more truth in this broadcast than you will ever hear on the stupid, dumbed down 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news that just tries to paint a picture and gets you to go behind it. And that's what I think is just so horribly wrong with the dinosaur media. And that is why their time has come. Because it's not hard to become an independent journalist. It's not hard to go out there with a cell phone or to actually go and talk to people and have interviews and do stuff like that. And that's what I kind of plan on doing when the weather gets better. It's just this winter's been brutal. And I wish global warming existed, because it'd be nice to not have to worry about slipping and having to go to the hospital every time I screw up my freaking spine that's already messed up. But, once the spring gets here and better weather, then I'm going to be going out doing more investigative reporting stuff, which is what I plan on doing. And there's also been other channels that I've been kind of keeping up to with the online presence of things. But I'm also going to be looking into getting a website, and I'm going to have to be careful to see which websites will actually allow political dissenting views. And it's gotten to the point where we really have to put our foot down and say, no, enough is enough. We're not taking our money out of our bank accounts. Enough. Let the banks fail. If they do horribly in a free market economy, they should be allowed to fail. They should be bought up by another company or sell out whatever assets they hold, and you switch to another bank. The fact that these assholes make record amounts of profit, millions upon millions of dollars of bonuses, and they feel the need that they have to take money out of our accounts, that is a joke. That is a joke. That is the redistribution of wealth, all right, for people that say we live in a socialist nation. But that is not for the people whatsoever the way it was designed for. That goes straight to the wealthy. That goes straight to that 0.001%. The same people that think that Kevin O'Neilly is the greatest financial mind here in Canada are fucking idiots, because he's laughing in our faces saying how great the economic gap is with the wealth inequality. It's ridiculous. And I wish we had a Trump here in Canada, because he's anti-establishment. He's speaking his mind. Yeah, he's talking in a base thing. I don't agree with the whole building a wall, because that ain't going to do anything. You're going to be starting a trade war with Canada and Mexico if you're talking about trying to get both nations to pay for a wall. And, that's just ridiculous. But auditing the Fed, I'm behind that. Releasing the 28 pages, I'm behind that. I wish we'd have a politician here in Canada that would actually get behind the Rocco Galati lawsuit with Comer against the Bank of Canada about re-nationalizing the issuance of our own currency, because that's what we need. If we did that, if we just said, hey, here you go, central banks, we're paying off, this is how much of the debt we have, we're paying off a certain amount of that, get some real economic, classical economists to go in and actually analyze how much we do owe them that's not compounded interest, I would be all for that. And then they would, we'd pay some of that off slowly but surely. But we wouldn't be paying off a third of the average Canadian's income is going towards paying off taxes on this compounded interest debt-based scheme that we got put into in 1974. And the U.S., for Americans that are listening to this, you may probably, if you're listening to this channel, because you're probably informed, know about the Federal Reserve in 1913, but we had our same thing in 74. And we actually were able to pay for the whole socialism thing. We had great healthcare. We had a great education system. We actually gave a damn about our elderly and had them in good care. We had school programs where there was a lot of computer design and media stuff that I was able to go. But I was kind of around the same time when they started doing the cutbacks. And also going out to BC back in the day when they actually had money, it was amazing. I really loved it. The school experience was great, but then they had all these, different cuts of education and healthcare over the years that has just completely gutted Canada. And the fact that we're stuck in this compounded debt-based slavery monetary system, which has completely screwed us all over. And, in the States, you've got what? You've got the conservatives, not the conservatives, the Republicans who have, practically they're cheerleading for free trade deals. They're cheerleading for these UN agendas to take over the Strong Cities Initiative. They're also talking, they're all for these decentralization of power, which is... But the thing about that is that it's going... the centralization of power, my bad, sorry about that. That's going towards these EU groups, these NGOs that are funding things. And in the States, there is no illusion to the fact that, what I like about Trump in the States is that he's got and Bernie, surprisingly, is that the DNC and RNC heads are coming out and saying, your vote doesn't matter, because our delegates are pretty much going to vote for whatever way we want them, and we can broker a convention the way we want to. And it was done in 1948. It was done back in the days of Lincoln. They've done it a few times before, but if they do it this time, shit is going to hit the fan. Because Americans, and I fell for it too, as a Canadian, sitting back. I don't have I can't vote in the American election. I don't have a real dog in the fight. But I like the fact that Trump is anti-free trade. And these free trade deals are all about offshoring our jobs to China. Why are we giving a communist country the reign of economic power for the entire fucking planet is beyond me. Yeah, okay, I understand that a lot of that has to do with the supply and demand, and the fact that the demand is here for people that want cheaper stuff and they want but you're also making it a way where they have no choice but to choose this cheaper stuff, and it's ridiculous. People call it protectionism because they're sick because Trump's sick of seeing entire cities like Detroit. Take Detroit is one of the huge microcosms of what happens when you allow a manufacturing sector to get completely siphoned overseas, and all it does is just completely destroy entire families and just areas that are heavily dependent on different sectors, especially manufacturing. And these aren't just customer service jobs. And even the customer service jobs are being, more to the point where they're trying to look at robotic automation. So they're getting rid of people. With all this technology and all this artificial intelligence that they keep creating, how are we going to be able to feed everyone? How are we going to have the jobs when all the high-paying jobs are overseas? When even the menial-paying jobs are all taken over by freaking robots? What are we going to have? A giant welfare state, and that's what it comes down to. And Trump, he wants to get rid of that offshore tax credit. I'm all for that. Apple should, the amount of money that Apple charges for their sweatshop fucking made gadgets is ridiculous. It should be a lot less when you take the actual cost of the product. And you know what? Most of that money goes to Japan. It doesn't even go to China. Japan, who's got negative interest rates now, whose quantitative easing has done absolutely nothing for that country. It hasn't expanded. And we have the Federal Reserve in the States. We have all these places whose policy for all the central banks has been printing money, has been printing as much money. Let that money roll. Even though it ended up to be what they call in economic terms a dead cat bounce, where you get a little bit of a recovery, but then it evens out because that money isn't going throughout the economy. These rich people that get more money keep it in their banks and don't recirculate it. In fact, Canada has one of the highest amounts of, of dead currency that's just sitting in rich assholes' bank accounts, not circulating whatsoever. And that just defeats the whole purpose of quantitative easing. And people don't realize that, folks. And that's why I'm just trying to tell people to do your own research. Look at this open. It's so in our faces. Just our monetary policy is meant to fail. It's meant to go into negative interest rates and bail-ins. In fact, this the whole system, which has been designed since the 50s and 60s, with these freaking Bilderberg think tanks, want a cashless society. And the way that they can get these cashless society is by controlling the monetary system. And the entire monetary system is a debt-based slavery system that isn't meant to last the test of time. As soon as they implemented the 1913 Federal Reserve, they set a countdown clock to, a certain amount of time that nobody else knows, that it's just a matter of time before shit hits the fan. It's just a matter of time before stuff happens here in Canada. We have seen so much cuts to education, so much cuts to healthcare, and it's not a left-right issue. The whole thing about the left spending a whole bunch of money and investing, and the right, giving into privatization and selling out resources, and globalization and capitalization and asset bubble schemes and stuff. That stuff doesn't really. It's what you've been taught in the school doesn't matter. Because there are always these controlling interests. And as soon as you try to bring up these, round table groups that are unelected, that have a ridiculous amount of money, that put all this kind of influence that's going on, and what gets me in the States is, Trump getting blamed. A few people that get pissed off because a bunch of idiots have came into their rally, a Republican rally, where there's going to be Republicans. Oh my God, Republicans at a Republican rally. And you get these Black Lives Matter, MoveOn.org, George Soros funded crazy people that are going in there to cause shit. And they have shirts like, vote for Trump, you get drumped. They have people sending white powder to Trump's son, or anthrax scares and stuff like that, even though it's probably not anthrax. But just stuff like that, Also calling out people who are Trump supporters as and calling Trump Hitler. Fucking Hitler! You're comparing a guy who flies around in a giant airplane that's apparently better than Air Force One, that has gold-plated toilet seats, and I know that's kind of a joke in itself, but compared to him to someone who went around mass murdering people, and oh my God, I can't believe how stupid and just programmed people are, and they believe it so much. When you see CNN that's spending about 80% of its time just completely criticizing Trump, trying to come up with the next thing to take him down. And I think that we need a populist uprising here in Canada, and we need somebody that will kind of make their own party. And here in Canada, we have more than just the two-party system. And in a way, it kind of shows the fact that if you have a bunch of parties, that they can still ultimately fail. Because there is not one party here in Canada that has policies that I completely agree with. I mean, like I said, you've got the Conservatives with their whole selling out of public assets and privatization schemes with the free trade agreements that, even though it takes away manufacturing jobs, they're all for, which is ridiculous. And then you've got the Liberals that practically do the same thing, but they try to push the climate change thing. Same thing with the Greens and the NDP that are trying to push this huge carbon tax. I mean, like I said in a couple of videos beforehand, I was part of the NDP. I really believed in what they had to say. I went to the Southwestern meeting, asked what the actual plan was for the carbon system, whether or not they were going to be doing a carbon credit offset system, or if they were going to do a cap and trade, and they practically didn't know. And I was like, well, is that going to be used to reinvest in, environmental stuff within that community from the places that they're taking the money from? And I got no real answer. In fact, all I got really told was, oh, well, we're just kind of waiting, we're so glad that Rachel Notley and the Alberta NDP. So I'm like, okay, so maybe they're just, trying to do the test run with Rachel Notley's example. So then I go look, and I happen to find out that a lot of her policy is based on the UN, Rockefeller Institute, the same oil interest, and that's what pisses me off about channels like All Time Conspiracies that try to pretty much do the controlled opposition for actual stuff that's going on. In fact, for so long, anything that's been going on, the whole push for New World Order, the whole the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the NSA spying, the tax by mile plans that they're trying to implement in Oregon, Orgo, what they call it, and stuff for people. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is all a taxation system. It's all a part of controlling energy. It's all about consolidation of different departments, whether or not it's based in the energy resource sector, whether or not it's based in the financial sector, where there are people that are completely tax exempt, that are completely, they exist outside the rules of laws that are put in place for the rest of humanity. These people have way too much power. And this is the problem. This is the cancer in society. It's not the small factors of, like, you know, racist police, or, you know, even the militarization of police by these globalists and Strong Cities Initiative and them going after police departments and stuff. The problem of race does exist, has always existed, but there's no way we need to bring in a 1984 complete control Orwellian system. Most people nowadays, they talk about Big Brother. Well, Little Brother is your smartphone spying on you. For people that don't read the terms and services, I mean, it's exhaustive. Most people don't. It's a pain in the ass. But, you know, when you have people that actually, when you really look into what they're saying in there, a lot of the stuff, they can take your information. They can find out where you are from playing a game. They can do all kinds of stuff that really restricts what you're doing. And, you know, they're trying to make it so with a TPP, they have the intellectual property, they have the seed patent protection, which kind of makes everything just like the States when it comes to, you know, I mean, they're trying to push us towards a Monsanto system where we're not even allowed to save seeds for the next year, which is ridiculous. Self-terminating seeds, where you have to go to a factory, farmers have to go to a factory, buy all these seeds, and even if they stick to the old fashioned methods of doing the farming, let's say if through cross contamination and the wind blowing, some GMO seeds happen to come onto his property and take root into a farmer's heritage, like from a crop that he's been using for generations in his family to beat out drought, to, you know, all the stuff that, you know, when you have a stronger seed, when you take the crop, that's evolution in a way. We're completely getting rid of that whole evolution, putting in a self-terminating food system where we're bringing all these genetically modified organisms, which is a tool which can be used in a good way or a bad way. And a lot of the times it's being in a bad way because there's a lack of regulations when it comes to that kind of stuff right now. I'm a big guy. I have a problem with eating. I understand that. I've also got a screwed up spine, and the fact that it's been wintertime, so I haven't really been able to do a whole lot of exercise because I slip on the ice and I have to go to the freaking hospital. You know, it's ridiculous. And the cancer rates are up. The amount of sick kids are going up. And we just accept it in a society as if it's just, oh, well, that's okay. We'll come up with a vaccine or a cure for that eventually. You know, we'll just shoot crap into our body that's probably genetically modified itself, or, you know, and it's ridiculous. You know, we fluoridate the water, even though there's no real reason for us to fluoridate the water. Oh yeah, so a few kids might have, like in the city of Calgary, they're having a big debate because apparently, parents weren't, teaching their kids how to brush their freaking teeth properly. So they want to reintroduce fluoride into the water, which by the ADA and the FDA have also been admitted and even in the UK studies have found that it causes all kinds of different problems, and even obesity for some weird reason, and fluorosis of the gums and teeth and stuff, and that stuff goes right into your bones. And it's, the reason why they have on the toothpaste in the States, where they say even swallowing a pea-sized bit of toothpaste, because of the fluoride in there, you need to consult a poison control center or something. It's ridiculous. Our whole society is based on the fact that we have, commercials, like I said before, that are all about, half the commercial is like these generic euphoric family talking about, or maybe someone who's got suffering from depression, and it's all like, oh, well, if you take depression, you might actually feel better if you take these pills, Cymbalta, it's good for you, and or like, oh, if you have heart disease or some problem here, you take this stuff, take something Uptor or something Zin, or some weird ass concoction of a name that they come out with. And then the other half of the commercial is them telling you about the side effects, and like either in like whether they have the fine print in the bottom that you can't read unless you got a magnifying glass, or you have the side effects might include severe death, like dizziness, a worse of depression, even though you're depressed and you're taking this stuff to fix that depression, or don't mix it with something else because you might get such and such crazy, you might be seeing pink Christina Aguilera monsters like in South Park. But it's just gotten so ridiculous. And then the next episode is like a legal office saying, have you or a loved one suffered severe health effects or death from using this product? It's just a total joke. And hey, you know what? I for people that want to, do their own research and stuff and take their own risks, totally, that's your decision. And I'm all for freedom of speech, and I'm also for informed consent and for people to, if you accept something and not know the risks, then that's why I kind of made this channel, is to let people be aware that they're, as much as they try to tell you that, a vaccine or a flu shot is 100% safe and effective, or that a medical practice is 100% safe and effective, there's always risks. And in the States, if you do get sick from like an injection from some sort of drug, or if you have a problem with if you have a side effects from a prescription drug, you have no real legal recourse. You can't sue those companies directly. And if a pharmaceutical company makes a drug full well knowing that it can actually harm you or has horrible side effects, and they get that passed anyways, then they don't get held responsible for it. In fact, it's actually like a tribunal, and instead of a judge, they call them masters, which is pretty freaking scary when you look into it. Just look into the process of the vaccine courts in the States, and you will find out that there is no such thing as 100% safe and effective. I mean, yeah, there's that very small chance for people that, like I have a niece, and I haven't told my sister not to vaccinate or not to do stuff. That's something that she's kind of looked into, and she's willing to take that risk. And I love my niece. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. And I want her to grow up healthy and smart and just as beautiful as her mother. I love my sister. And I just, but there are people like that have sick kids, or have kids that have that allergic reaction to things, and they're not properly being informed. And the ones that say, hey, listen, I have a kid that's really sickly, like has really bad reactions to stuff, or maybe had a reaction one time that they went to get a vaccine or something. And there's also a difference in the amount of vaccination in the States and Canada, because in the States they vaccinate a lot more than they do in Canada. So I mean, there's always that risk, and it's crazy because I see more and more this state control, where if you want to look for alternative, there's people that I'm trying to remember exactly. But there's like families in the States that wanted to live like that live like non-GMO, that had their own farm, that were kind of doing their own thing, and were homeschooling and stuff, and they got completely targeted. Like the kids got taken away and stuff. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like the state is taking away that parental rights. They're taking away informed consent, and that's not debated. It's happening so much, but it barely makes the news in the mainstream media, and that is why I don't trust the mainstream media for a lot of stuff. And it really does suck when you're talking to people. Like, I have friends in RuneScape who I never let my political affiliations or what I believe and my, hatred towards the New World Order for quite some time. For about 5 years, I didn't say a damn thing, because, well, a lot of people just aren't ready for it unless they're willing, unless they're open, they've opened their eyes, and they see all the shit that's going around, and they'll be like, hey, why isn't society going better? Why are we making artificial intelligence when we have people that are starving? We haven't even understood the life that's around us as it is right now. We're coming up with all these future, possibilities that completely don't even take into account the fact that we still have people now, and we don't know how those people are going to be able to fend for themselves if we completely change everything over. All these people that want to buy the latest, self-driving car, when, that technology they still haven't ironed out all the bugs from that. Like, there's videos of people that are just, in the car, just kind of doing blah, 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 who are all for it, that are actually, completely into the whole self-driving phenomenon, and then all of a sudden the wheel fucking veers right into oncoming traffic, and they have to, like, grab it, there are so many different bugs involved in it, and the fact that there's these insurance schemes that are put in by these companies that want to adopt it to actually make it so that you driving, you won't be able to afford to drive yourself, because you'll have to worry about a higher insurance cost as opposed to leaving it to a computerized system. And, whether or not you can, especially the hackability of a lot of these vehicles is ridiculous. I mean, I know Tesla's pretty good for that. In fact, from what I heard from one of my friends, Derek Verver, I haven't actually looked right into the whole story to confirm it or not. Apparently, if you can hack a Tesla car, then they'll give you a job. So, I mean, I like visionaries like Elon Musk, because you need guys like that. You need guys that are willing to try to, make missions to Mars and stuff like that, and try to expand humanity out into the cosmos and stuff like that, because that's really our future. But the way that we're doing it right now, this infighting these billionaires that are funding groups to just start racial division, or funding groups to cause segregation, like the Koch brothers when they wanted to resegregate inner city schools and stuff like that. It's just so ridiculous. So you have to look at which side a billionaire is funding. You have to follow the money in a lot of things. You have to follow policy to see whether or not they relate to these roundtable groups like the Club of Rome that, pretty much declares humanity a plague, or people that, like the UN and the IPCC that have been caught fudging their figures over and over again, that have huge degrees of error in their reports, or they'll take data and completely blow it up so that it looks like there's this huge traumatic increase when we've had periods before, like the medieval warm period, and I think there's also another period before that. There's so many different periods where the climate has changed, and climate change itself is not debated. Like, the climate will and continue to change, but the fact that we try to say that it's all, even though the highest increase in the past, in the recent 150 years happened before the post-economic boom, the post-war economic boom in the 1940s. So, I am definitely really skeptical about a lot of stuff. And I mean, regardless of whether or not the whole climate issue is, if you believe in it or not, I am all for switching to renewable energy. Just we haven't fixed that gap yet. In fact, when we try to shut down all these older forms of energy, we're creating higher prices and more demand. And we're seeing that here in Canada with the Ontario carbon tax that they put in. We're seeing that already within just within a very small amount of time that the NDP Alberta government has put in. They have skyrocketed unemployment to 7.2 from, I think, 4%, which is ridiculous. And for people to say that's a small price to pay, those are entire families' livelihoods completely destroyed. These are people that aren't able to fucking pay for their houses, to pay for their mortgage. And, if you look at the actual translation of mortgage, it is a death pledge, because you're paying it for most of your life until you die, practically, for a lot of people. Or they have to, remortgage and then still pay more on that, or the whole tapping into the equity, the hidden wealth in your home kind of bull crap that they try to, spew out to you. So I just telling everybody to be aware of the Americans out there. Realize that Hillary Clinton doesn't give a damn about women's rights. She has done everything she can to silence Bill Clinton's rape victims. She killed Kathleen Willie's cat. Just completely crazy shit that she's been involved in. And I thought it was kind of interesting, because I've been trying to follow the Democratic and the Republican primaries and stuff, just because, Canada's already had our little bit of political, fiesta, the whole crap-a-palooza that Trudeau was, bringing trendies over to his side, thinking he's all progressive and stuff. And hey, Harper was bad, but this guy has just approved banks going into your bank account when they're losing money, which is a total bail-in. We've also got the TPP, whether or not they decide to ratify it. And you know what? As much as I hear the Liberals say, well, we might sign it, but we might not ratify it, you could be damn well sure if they're passing fucking Cyprus-style bank bail-ins, then they're going to be passing all kinds of Trans-Pacific Partnership and Transatlantic Partnership crap. CETA itself, the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, is already screwing us over. With the implementation of the TPP, it actually gives a rise to a new sector called the farm police, which is what they have in the States. They have these Monsanto representatives that go around and tattletale on different farmers who may or may not be using GMOs, who may or may not know that their crop is being corrupted by a genetically modified organism. And they get sued. And the average farmer can't deal with $million upon millions of dollars of lawsuits and litigation. It is a stacked against them battle where the multinationals will always win unless they get a huge public support, and a lot of the times it doesn't get the media coverage. The Rebel has completely blown the whole refugee crisis, the fact that a lot of those refugees were actually comfortably living in Turkey and Ankara in different buildings and stuff like that. But we brought them over here to make it some sort of liberal sacrament to show how great we are to the world, and that we have all these freaking globalists that are coming over here patting us on the back and telling us that we need to keep bringing more. I mean, at first it was 30,000. I was fine with that. Then it jumped to 50,000. I was kind of okay with that. Now this whole 300,000, we're putting them in like 4 or 5-star hotels. We're giving them it's ridiculous. It really is. We have Canadians, like, I've lived being homeless and stuff. There's only a few places which really helps you out. And you know what? They're the Christians. And I'm not religious whatsoever, but I thank, whatever deity or whatever force of righteousness there is out there that, they do exist, because they do help people. And I'm all for religious organizations that help people. But we're bringing in people that we can't afford, for one, because look at the bright side. Immigration, well, not bright side, but look at the fact that immigration has always been and should be not a left-right paradigm issue, but based on how the workforce and the demand for the workforce is. If a country is doing really well and is, all these companies that are hiring, whatever they need for workers, whether they're skilled or unskilled labor, then yeah, bring in more immigrants, because we're going to need people to fill that gap to keep the economy going. But if you have it where we're seeing, like, every single day, there seems to be, like, or every other day, there's major companies that are announcing layoffs, that are announcing closures, that are packing up and going to fucking Mexico or China. And we're bringing in a whole bunch of unskilled people who have fake passports who we can't really vet. And like I said, with Ezra Levant, I mean, hey, I understand he's from the whole Sun Media thing. I hate anything related to the Sun, whether or not it's Rupert Murdoch or Paul Desmarais through Power Corp and Quebecer. Even though Paul Desmarais is dead, practically, his junior has taken over, Paul, and I think someone else too. I can't remember his name, but I know they still have influence, but not as much as they had in the last 30, 40 years. And a lot of Canadians don't even know who the Desmarais family is. That's just how controlled we are here in Canada. And that's what's sad about it. That's why I tell people, don't watch CBC. In fact, I'm at the point now where I'm kind of in agreement. Sell the fucking CBC. They used to do the Fifth Estate. And, watching old Fifth Estate episodes on the different archives that they have is amazing, because it's almost like, oh my god, this is what real investigative journalism used to be. That's what it used to be. MK Ultra program, highly controversial. A lot of Canadian media didn't want to cover it because it showed that in the Allen Institute, the whole just horrendous human rights abuses that were being conducted on people in the 50s, that it just, oh my god. A TV show, a made-for-TV movie called The Sleep Room. I highly recommend you to watch that if you have any doubt to what I'm saying, or you really want to see what that whole debacle was about. By all means, watch it. It is really eye-opening, even though it's based on a true story kind of thing. But that was amazing. Or the fact that they were spraying miners with aluminum powder so they didn't get silicosis in their lungs and stuff, which was now completely debunked, and I don't think they do that as much here in Canada. I may be wrong, but the fact that they brung attention to it and really kind of pissed off a lot of the mining industry was amazing. But now, what do we have? We have the Fifth Estate doing stupid stuff on Cold Effects, or Marketplace doing stuff on Cold Effects, the Fifth Estate demonizing Putin, making him out to be the most evilest man in the world, when, hey, you know what, jailing your political rival after an election is probably not the best thing to do for your country, but you know what, they're taking out this GMOs. They want to be the leader in organic foods. They're all about strong families. They're not about putting feminists in charge of things, which is not about equal rights whatsoever. It's all about breaking the family apart, cultural Marxism, making everyone believe that they don't need to have kids and stuff like that. Just total. There'll be a time where if you say that babies came from moms, they'll be, no, that's not true. The state makes the babies now. That's just a conspiracy theory, and Alex Jones said that, and you know what? I kind of agree with him on that, because as crazy as some of the stuff is, people, especially publications that are trying to take him down on a regular basis, try to say that he's not. I mean, I don't agree with his stance on abortion, but I can see where he's coming from when you have Planned Parenthood, those videos that were released with them, like, casually having, like, glasses of wine talking about cutting up baby parts and shit and selling them illegally for, like, thousands of dollars and stuff. So I can see where they're coming from in that. I don't agree with it myself. I'm a pro-choice person myself. I believe that is a decision that should be left up to the couple or the woman who's getting the abortion or whatnot for whatever reason. And I mean, like, let's be honest. Nowadays, not everyone can afford to raise a kid. We're in a society where the prices of things are going up. People's wages are still staying the same. It's ridiculous. It may go up a tiny bit, but even if we go up to $50 an hour wages, we'll still be at the same purchasing power as we had in the 70s. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's a little bit more extra bucks, but it's still not going anywhere. The price of everything else is still increased. So what kind of choice do we have as Canadians? What kind of non-violent choice do we have to be able to change things when we have, here in Canada, all parties controlled? Even the Libertarian Party. I didn't agree with them not getting rid of Lauren Southern because of her stance against, third wave radical feminazis. And hey, I know many women who are all about equal rights and stuff like that, like Zoe Kunchner. She was awesome. I really like talking to her, and if she ever ran again, I would probably support her just because I know she's aware. She's not all about division. She's not all about this whole taxation grid, even though the NDP party is on that platform. And that's pretty one of the reasons why I voted for her and also for Brian, because he's a great guy. It was a provincial thing, and I went to the actual provincial convention in Toronto in like November of, I think, 2014, was it? Yeah. And, I liked what they had to say, and it wasn't like a place where I had to, have my Facebook checked before I showed up to figure out like they would do with the Liberals or the Conservatives to see whether or not I affiliated with a policy that they don't agree with. And so I kind of liked that. And they were also talking about a lot of stuff that was considered not exactly mainstream. And but sure enough, when it comes to the actual leaders talking about that in their elections, no mention of it. It's they never talk about like the main policy things that could really change things. Also, the one thing I don't like about the Libertarian Party is, they're talking about, like putting giving back the printing power to Canada, and I think that's awesome. And also, making sure our military is used for defense purposes, because we can't afford an all-out offensive against Russia. Do you think Canadian, for like maybe a defensive thing, if they ever invaded, we might be able to do some of that, but we don't have the manpower and resources. So when we join these UN efforts to bomb things in a collaborated effort, yeah, okay, it looks good on the international stage. But what happens if we poke the wrong people and we actually get ourselves thrust into a serious fucking war? We do not have the resources to put up a prolonged campaign against it. And if we do, it'll completely weaken what little of an economy we have here in Canada. That is, that isn't manufacturing. That is all about customer service. That's getting down to. We're becoming a consumer-based society. And that's not a good thing. Because that doesn't, unless we make it so that it's things are getting cheaper, it still has people not being able to pay their rent, still has people having to choose between whether or not they're going to heat their homes or if they're going to eat. And that's not right. We have people that are just, like when they said, like the whole wealth inequality gap. And I'm not for this whole socialist aspect of wealth distribution. I am about having it so that, capitalism that is actually based on a free market Adam Smith principle. Okay, if you actually look at like what Adam Smith said, it was back in the time when gold and silver were still, highly priced as commodity, and this whole central banking fiasco thing, wasn't nearly as apparent and complex as it is today and prevalent. And obviously we have our technological things that, a lot of people beforehand would blow their minds to see just how interconnected things are nowadays. But we have to make the rules that everyone follows. Nobody does that anymore. We have a two-tier system, a set of laws that we have to follow, and a set of laws that multinationals get exempt from. And it's ridiculous when we have people that are getting off on fucking mowing people down through affluenza, or we have Warren Buffett telling people that they need to pay more taxes when he was the biggest bailout freaking recipient, from the 2008 financial crisis. It's ridiculous. It really is. And anybody that's actually awake and is listening to this for as long as they have, I really commend you. I say thank you very much. A lot of people out there know, but there's also a huge amount of people that don't even want to look into the core issues of society, that just see what the media tell them, that see the media saying, oh, Trump is bad, so I'm going to vote for him. I mean, I'm going to hate him because he's the next Hitler, because I was told that way. They even have, little kids going outside of Trump towers being like, he's racist, and he hates Jews, and I'm a Jew, even though he's like, I love Israel, I've done all because he doesn't want outright Palestinian genocide. And hey, no matter what issue on the whole, that is a conflict that has gone on for thousands of years, and probably whether or not Trump gets elected is going to rage on regardless. But at least he wants to negotiate. He wants to try to broker some peace between them. And yeah, he's backpedaled on a few things. He said he wouldn't torture, but then he said he was going to torture, then he said he wasn't going to torture, and then all of a sudden they came out with the Brussels attacks, and he said, well, I would waterboard those fuckers. And I could see Trump he's so used to saying things on such a kind of generic base kind of level that I think he's letting things emotionally get to him too much. Case in point, the whole I guess there was some sort of non-affiliated group that came out with I guess his wife posing for and they said this is the next new first lady, as if Clinton, who freaking silenced Bill Clinton's rape victims when he was in the president as first lady, is some shining beacon of what it's supposed to be a first lady, is a joke. But and the fact that Vince Foster's death was pretty questionable, the 22 prior scandals, Travelgate, the finance scandal where she was taking money from Chinese government officials, the selling of complete missile guidance systems to the Chinese under Clinton, just total ridiculous acts of treason. So the fact that if we go to a nuclear war, it's an endgame scenario now. But I mean, from that time in the 90s to now anyways, there's been a lot of huge advances in technology, obviously, but back then a Windows 97 based operating system or something. But it's gotten to the point where it is getting ridiculous. It really is. And for people that are just not awake to it, I just if you're watching this and you're skeptical about the whole New World Order, you just really have to look at the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You have to look at these agendas that are being put in, the Strong Cities Initiative, the Club of Rome documents, talking about people and carbon as a pollutant and people being as scum. And, here, the whole carbon tax thing, they're making people burn shit in their houses. And there's all kinds of respiratory diseases that are going along with it. And a lot of methane that's being put into the atmosphere. No mention of that by the IPCC or NOAA. No, they don't like to mention that. No, they have to keep it so that those African countries can't develop. They can't use coal. They can't use cheap power. They have to use expensive, solar-powered, wind-power stuff that costs a lot of money to put in. I mean, it costs a lot of money for us to put in here in Canada. Could you imagine what it's like when when one of your dollars in your currency in Africa is not even worth is worth maybe less than a penny of a American dollar or a Canadian dollar or a UK pound or a euro? How are you going to afford to put in all these, and I mean, you might get a couple solar panels to power they have this one station on the Great Carbon, was it the Great Global Warming Swindle or something like that, where they have this one where they can only afford to either put on the lights or use the refrigerator to keep blood samples and vaccines and stuff like that cold. So, it's not the same. You need cheap energy, or you need newer energy to get cheaper, so that people can afford to run in complete steel industries off of renewable energy. I am all for that, but we are not there yet. And, it's ridiculous, the amount of money that gets put in. And I love the argument for the environmentalists that are saying, well, the oil and gas companies that are paying these scientists to come out with a theory that's the $1 billion lobby. Yet meanwhile, billions upon billions, almost trillions of dollars is being put into universities by government through government grants and government funding to support the climate change agenda. And as soon as you try to tell people that, they completely freak out. But the Harvard Institute can't be trusted, and blah, 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 blah. It's all oil companies. But don't you understand that the Rockefeller Institute has already jumped on board? British Petroleum has jumped on board. Shell has jumped on board years ago, decades ago, with this whole carbon credit scheme because it makes them money. The offsets make them a shit ton of money. It's a complete system that's ranked as a junk bonds on the market, like I've said before, that came up, that was, by guys like Ken Lay from Enron. So, and it doesn't do anything to actually stop real pollution. And it doesn't hold companies, feet to the fire. It doesn't hold them accountable. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that, but I am so pissed off about what's going on with the whole, recapitalization plan in the budget where they're talking about bail-ins. Like, that is ridiculous. I hope Max Kaiser or Peter Schiff or some other people out there come out and say something about it, because that's just crazy what they're doing. And this isn't like it's like some sort of secret thing where they have a cabal where it's like Wayne Gretzky and Trudeau and the ghost of Tim Hortons, or reanimated Android AI based on Tim Hortons is sitting in some elaborate little underground thing. This is right in the open. They're putting it in these policies. They're putting it in the budget, and it's not just a coincidence that they're putting in these clauses that are making it so that local companies have trouble competing on a global market, making it so that businesses have trouble. It's ridiculous. When we're having is the fact that we can actually have our bank accounts broken into and stolen, and money stolen, taken out, and exchanged for worthless shares in a company that's going bankrupt. It's ridiculous. How are you going to pay stuff with shares of a bond you can't even sell because everybody else has these imaginary shares? That's what a bail-in is. And it's just getting scary, folks. I'm going to stop from going on because I seem to kind of have this thing where I keep going ranting. But I just say, for everybody out there, just do what you can. Sign petitions. Maybe, I don't know what kind of use it is to getting a hold of your local member of parliament, but, we, as a regular people, we don't really have an outlet to really change anything. They tell us it's through voting, but voting doesn't matter. In the States, they got the delegates they can pull on people, That's the only reason why I like Trump. I don't like the other Republicans because they're warmongering idiot psychopaths, and I don't like, I didn't mind Bernie, because he was against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and I'm all for that. But, I also look at Bernie's record. There's a few times where he's voted, he hasn't voted on things when it actually matters. But he's voted on things when he knew nobody else was going for it to make him look good. And that's why I don't trust Bernie. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think America can really take socialism. And you know what? Even if Trump gets elected or Bernie gets elected, I have a sinking feeling that the globalists are going to crash that economy as soon as they can. Because he's going to be putting in regulations, same thing with Bernie, that would limit their power to make exorbitant amounts of money or have unlimited amount of political influence through just spending billions of dollars. And the campaign finance thing. If a politician is running and making all this money, who do you think they're going to care about? The American public or the people that are paying for their trips to, back and forth from Congress and stuff? And it's ridiculous. It really is. And I really do hope that things get better in the States, and I really do hope that people wake up, because Americans were completely dissatisfied, and that's why they voted for Obama. Because as a Canadian, after seeing all the just ridiculous amounts of even though let's just take the mainstream narrative, not to mention the actual true side of things, which a lot of informed people know about, the whole 28 pages, the whole flying the bin Ladens right out afterwards, the main suspects, and you fly them all out because the whole James Bath thing, or Jim Bath or whatnot, and connection with Bin Laden and Bush family, and just Al Qaeda in general, and the fact that beforehand it was the Mujahideen that was given credibility and given funded by Brzezinski to take out to get the communists into the Russians into the Afghanistan and kind of mire them in there. So, when you look at the fact that, apparently, they were fighting, Al Qaeda and stuff like that, and people were so pissed at the Bush and the illegal war in Iraq, and just the whole foreign policy disaster and destabilization of Iraq that led to this whole ISIS shenanigans in the first place. And you see that they were trying to fight Al Qaeda and stuff like that. Oh, that's what they were saying. They were fighting Al Qaeda, even though Saddam Hussein happened to just get thrown in there for some reason. They tried Iran, but nobody had in Syria, and nobody had the will. The American people were like, no, we're not going into this. This is ridiculous. And so then they bring Obama in there, and he's running off he was running off a platform of if you listen to the Obama when he was campaigning. And you listen to the Obama now, there are two separate Obamas. I think, that whole thing about whether or not he was born in the States is really irrelevant. They should be looking into whether or not Obama has a twin. Because an evil twin that replaced him as soon as he got elected. Because, my God, it is like a completely different person talking about reigning in Wall Street. What does he do? Elect the same people Bush had in this administration when it comes to Wall Street. It's like, oh my God, the same crooks. And, what happens? The bailout. There wasn't even any really informed decision of the American people or, telling them what that would actually curtail. And then you got the backlash. You had a huge backlash of people that were like, hey, Obama, we just voted for you, man, because I thought you were going to fix things and make America a free and democratic society again. But no, you turned table. Kissinger, when he got elected, I think he's going to be the greatest person to bring in the new world order. I am Henry Kissinger. I am the evilest man in the world. I love Obama. It's just like, oh, God, here we go. And everything he's practically campaigned on, he's either lied about or done in a completely corrupt way where it just benefits multinational corporations and not the people whatsoever. And that's what's sad about it. And that's why I think a lot of people are looking at Trump and saying, hey, he's not an establishment figure. He's talking a little base and politically incorrect. Americans, the last thing you can do to an American is tell them not to vote for something, because they will damn well do whatever they fucking want and within their rights. And damned everyone else, and in a way I kind of admire that, because here in Canada, we're moving so far to the left, to the pussified, everything has to be politically correct. Oh, we can't hurt your feelings. Oh, we can't, we're all about, making a big deal about this non-existent rape culture myth that's been debunked plenty of times, that this college rape myth that's been debunked plenty of times, like the wage gap myth that was only taken from high amounts of CEOs and not through entire sectors of society as a whole. No. And that's what I kind of, hey, in entertainment, if, what they were saying with, what's her face, I can't remember her name. I hate entertainment. I try to stay away from the whole thing. What's the one, Gwyneth Paltrow, when she was complaining about not getting paid enough as Robert Downey Jr. and stuff, and, I understand that she's only in a very small percentage of the Iron Man movies and stuff, but... I understand that, okay, sometimes the women get paid a lot less than men, and Hollywood needs to sort that kind of thing out. But, there's a lot of old Jewish people, too, that run Hollywood, and, there's also the Chinese, though. It's ridiculous how they had to, reshoot the whole remake of Red Dawn, just because it made the Chinese look bad, and... also had to reshoot different parts of Mission Impossible, and other movies like that, where they have a real say in. And it's kind of nice seeing a few movies that are coming out that are contrary to the whole lobbied interest of Hollywood. And they obviously are trying to push agendas. Same thing with the entertainment industry. And I just tell people to be mindful, investigate things for yourself. Hey, I'm just a guy who's upstairs in my room trying to do the best I can about reporting on these things, because I've always been politically awake. I've always researched a lot of things. I have about 6 to 8 hours a day where I'm listening to just different types of sources from different news outlets and different political spectrums. And, I've noticed more and more nowadays that actually, there really isn't much difference between the mainstream media and the alternative media. In fact, you will get just as much, if not more, disinformation or watered down news in the mainstream media or stuff that they won't report on than the actual people that go out and there's a lot of dedicated channels of people out there that are doing pretty good and are going through the efforts of funding their own operations and getting reporters out to different and actually doing investigative journalism. And I completely commend that. I think that's awesome, and I think more people need to do that. And that's the reason why I started this channel, because I think everybody should start their own media, and that's really how you get the revolution started. Like a non-violent, peaceful revolution is getting a whole bunch of people to go out there with cameras, to start asking questions, to start getting politically engaged. And whether or not you agree with my stance on Trump, with my stance on a lot of things, is really, it's really irrelevant, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's just completely criminal, that is completely going to kill human development and the progression of the human race. And there's probably a lot of things we do agree on, as opposed to things we don't agree on. And hey, post links if you feel free to debate with me and stuff. I mean, I respect anyone's opinion, and I understand that some people are informed, some people are misinformed, some people are not informed, and some people are more informed than I am. You're getting a huge mixture of people. But, you still have the right to have your voice heard. You still have the right to dissent, as much as they're trying to crack down on that, as much as, you have the right to freedom of speech. Even if it is unpopular, even if people do disagree with you, even if, like we have now in the States, there's like college campuses where someone put like Trump 2016 and they have to like bring in like counselors because people are so scared because their safe spaces are being violated. Oh no! Like, fuck's sakes, grow some balls. There's no more indication that a culture has reached that age of decadence when, like all news is about entertainment and just stupid things that don't really matter. When you have these oppressive, just forms of systems that are based on slavery, based on complete control, complete monopolization. And what's sad about it is that I have some friends that are saying, I love global government. Dude, I totally think that, like, everything, we shouldn't have nations because, like, like, look at just all the inequality out there, and, like, oh my god, like, the exchange rates and stuff like that. And you know what? I kind of agree in certain ways. When you have it so that you can use $1 Canadian to, like, pretty much pay for, like, a month's salary of somebody in, like, Malawi or another African country, there's some stuff that's messed up there. And for all the things that is messed up about having a sovereign nation, I understand that bit, but there's also a lot of stuff about it that's good. And I don't think we're going to get to that point where we're in that kind of Star Trek revolution kind of thing where a society has, like, where we've, but I mean, like as much as a Star Trek society is based on the merits of how, like, the service that you provide for society is based on how, like, is how you're merited and how you're seen. And, they've gotten rid of the whole, people starving and famine through the whole replicator system. And, there's this one giant world government of people that are all in it for, for the global good, and we're going out into the stars and exploring the cosmos. I mean, even in that timeline, they had a World War III and like a huge, like, 100-year period of just, like, complete, horrible shit going on with Gene Roddenberry, because he kind of saw where things were going. And I mean, we're still going to have that strife. And the thing about it is, we're putting it up to faith for people that believe that a one world government is a good thing, and that a monopolization is a good thing, and that no competition is a good thing. That's pretty much what they're saying. And we have to be careful, because it very easily can be the same group of shadow elites that pull the strings from different countries, that put in their money and their influence, that push for certain socioeconomic goals, and either through the destabilization or funding coups, funding political opponents that, change things and change policy. That is something we have to be aware of, because a lot of people aren't aware of it. So I'm thinking to myself, if we have a one world government, it's probably going to be run by the same people who make their whole life and their whole power system off of oppressing people. And until we break that paradigm, until we get rid of those people who are in charge, who follow a completely different law system than we do, and just play people off on basic stuff like, oh, well, you're white, so you have white privilege, so what you say does not matter. I'm going to judge you because of something that your, ancestors fucking did, may not have done, It's ridiculous. And I judge people by their actions. I judge people by what they have to say. I judge people by the content of their character. That's the way that we should be doing things. We should be bringing conversations. If you don't agree with something, okay. Doesn't mean that you got to just sit there and, completely dehumanize them and make them out to be like the next Hitler, or compare them to the worst people ever. I mean, there are people out there that are supporting communism, that are supporting Nazism, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. They're, as much as people try to say, oh, it's two sides of the same thing, man. But it's not, it's different. They use tyrannical state powers to, confiscate and to pretty much take over. But in a lot of means, you have fascism that's all about the state control, and you also have, it's also about hating the Israeli element of things. And I don't hate Jewish people. My grandma's Jewish, and but I mean, she's about as Jewish as Federal Reserve is federal, because I've never seen her go to a synagogue or anything like that. But she carries the thing around, so maybe you don't need to be a practicing member of a religion or go to a church to have that faith. But I've never carried that tradition on. My mom's never carried that tradition on, so. Yeah, so I mean, I'm all for people practicing their own religions and stuff, but I'm also not for communism. I'm not for cultural Marxism that plays people off against each other, that makes people, idolize the peasant life, to make it think that, not having a whole bunch of stuff, or not having a good sustaining way of life, or not promoting entrepreneurial ownership and pretty much stopping stopping real growth and development, in the, in the whole communist, when they had people that were dying of scurvy, that were people dying of starvation, freezing to death, Russia at that time, Moscow, would deny the fact that there was any kind of plague or polio or anything like that. Oh no, there's no starvation. Everyone is happy. Everyone is living great. And it's just like North Korea, where they say, oh yes, shopping markets everywhere. Everyone has food, and it's all like a little cutout thing of like a giant. It looks like there's aisles and aisles of food, when it's just like an optical illusion. Because there's always going to be those people that are more equal than others in a society, and we have to try to stop, limit that as much as we can to, make sure that people are following the same set of rules. And a lot of people just aren't even aware of just how the system works. I mean, they know it works against them, but they just don't know the actual complexities. And I completely encourage people to go out and check that out. So, anyways, I'm going to leave off with that, as much as I've kind of almost trailed out a few times before. And for anybody that's listened to this for as long as they have, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep doing some more videos and stuff like that. I got to stop now because my back is just killing me right now. I got to lay down. But thank you very much. Keep on rocking in the free world. For those Americans out there that are watching, I highly endorse Trump because, well, he ain't perfect, but he's probably the best chance you guys have. Just looking at the reaction of the establishment in itself is probably one of the best ways. Probably starting a trade war with Mexico and Canada is probably not the best thing. I mean, oh yeah, all those maple syrup smugglers. And I know you're trying to say that heroin's being smuggled. And you know what? Through Vancouver and that whole, a lot of the stuff that's coming over through China and different countries there is a lot of heroin that's getting, brought into the country. And that is a problem. And I'm going to acknowledge that because it's true. But I mean, you look at the drug trade in general. I mean, if he really wants to go after, the drug flow, he should go after the central bankers. I mean, you got Wells Fargo that's been busted, bringing in planefuls of cocaine, just tons of kilos of that shit. And slap on the wrist. They bring in billions and billions of dollars. We'll give them a few, $100 million fine, which is like nothing to them. It's ridiculous. Start putting those people in jail. Start, really going after people if you're going to go after the drug war. This whole building a wall, you think that's going to stop the cartel? You think that's going to stop maybe a few people, few of the, crazy Muslims that might come through Canada into the States or whatnot? No, they're going to find ways. And you know what? Building a wall and the border of Canada, good luck with that, man. I was looking because I was living pretty close to, when I was in Nelson, British Columbia, which is pretty close to the border in BC, and when I was looking at because I went down with a buddy of mine who I was good friends with. He had a vehicle down to the lake there, and he was driving around showing me just where the actual border was. And if you try to put a fence there, it's really hard to do because there's all kinds of different cliff sides and high mountain areas where even if you did put a wall, you might even be able to just kind of build a little plank and then walk over there or something. So people can take a welding gear and make a hole in something, unless you really put time and money into policing it, which let's not beat around the bush. The state's immigration system's kind of messed up. When you're hearing stories of people, as much as the Democrats and Obama doesn't like to report on the deaths of these people that are coming across the border illegally, there's tons of families that are that have lost loved ones that have been either killed, raped, murdered. Obviously killed and murder is the same thing, but all kinds of just horrible things that have happened to people that just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when somebody came over across the border through Mexico, maybe gang related or whatnot, did something really horrible, got picked up by ICE or the border agents, put into a center, and then deported back to Mexico so they can do the same thing again. They have people that are multiply offending and doing horrendous, extreme, and they're being allowed to be put in. And if they make it to California, they can, get driver's license and different names and stuff. And they're actually bringing people in specifically on planes, not checking them when they have this huge security. You try to go to the Super Bowl in the States, and they have the state security just jism of having your kids groped and by security agents and stuff, and TSA and Homeland Security. It's just a total joke. So I mean, if they were as serious as they say about security, they would protect their borders more. And in that regards, I kind of see where Trump is coming, and I can see why Americans are going for him. And I do support Trump. If I was in the States, I would vote for him because Bernie Sanders ain't got no chance. And I don't think that the heightened tax is really going to help the country right now, because even if his plan to get rid of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and offshore tax credits for companies like Apple, I mean, they could easily crash the economy. And you know what? They might crash the economy with Trump. And I hope a lot of people who are Trump supporters might realize that and say, hey, when you have the RNC coming out and saying that your vote doesn't matter, when, for a long time they were always saying that was conspiracy theory. That, oh yeah, it happened in 48, it happened with Lincoln and stuff like that, and a couple other times, but, it'll never happen now. That's just conspiracy theory. And now they're openly talking about, brokering or, pulling in their superdelegates for the Democrats, and it's ridiculous. It really does show that there is no democratic process in the States, and, my hopes and prayers, even though I'm not religious, I really hope America can pull out of it. And I really do hope that you guys don't get sucked into this whole North American Union with us here in Canada. But, be aware that Canada is also being, because we're so open and so liberal and so multicultural, we're being taken advantage of. And we're paying for all this stuff here, where we've given away our monetary printing power away so that, the money that used to be there for social programs, for educational programs is not there anymore because it's being sucked up and paid to these globalists, these people these chartered entities that have no allegiance to Canada. And even there's, like I said before, I think I've linked it before in one of my videos beforehand, Oh Canada, Our Bought and Sold Out Land. It's an older documentary, but it shows you just how much we've given up everything here in Canada. When you give the printing power to a private entity, it doesn't really matter who makes the laws. And I know someone, I can't exactly remember who said that and what the actual quotes were. I'm just quoting it kind of loosely, obviously, but it's true. And our biggest adversary right now is these globalists. It's not Russia. I mean, yeah, okay, they're a threat if we keep pushing it with these, globalists that are trying to push us into this whole thing. And I mean, with the whole Ukrainian pilot that was involved in killing those Russian journalists that's been sentenced. Now Canada puts in all these like more sanctions against. And I know Dan Dix covered it too. And it sickens me to see that Canada is catering towards the. Like there's even some places where they're allowing Sharia law in Canada, which is just like, are you fucking kidding me? We're supposed to be such an open and liberal nation, yet we're bringing in a form of just completely oppressive law, a law system that is contrary to everything of Western democratic values. And that's what I don't understand. And then you have like this pussification by everyone's, metrosexuality that's just being, pushed on everyone, and it's ridiculous. I mean, hey, what I don't understand about here in Canada is just how it's if you're an American, I really encourage you to watch like CBC on YouTube or like CTV and just kind of see the difference. I know Michael Moore, as much as I hate that guy, I mean, he did really good work in Flint, Michigan. Was showing like in that whole, I think it was either Bowling for Columbine, I think, where it was showing the difference between Canadian news and American news. It's kind of like that, but now it's gone from like innocent Canadian stuff that Canadians, like stuff that was, to just kind of being like, they'll cover certain aspects of things, but there's always a bias to it. They're always trying to promote some sort of general political, bias behind it, which is what it comes down to. So, and even the right papers, newspapers, Sun Media, while that was around, like, they do it too. I'm not gonna, say that it's just one way. I mean, you do have the right here in Canada, but now that Harper's not in power, they're not having as much influence. A lot of people are not interested, so they go more towards the left, and it really is just kind of these globalists that kind of just balance what's going on here in Canada and completely manipulate things for personal gain and for political points, really. That's what it comes down to. So anyways, I will talk to you guys later and make some more videos soon. I just have to sit down because all this ranting is in my back. So, alright guys, take care, have a good one, and keep on rocking in the supposed free world as long as it stays free. So, alright, have a good one, and talk to you later. Peace.